Welcome to the DNA Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pugh, and join with me is my wonderful, my immaculate, my amazing, my impeccable. I need a new word, David. What can I add for you?
Asshole.
My asshole co-host, David Perry. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me again.
Joining us today to talk about the world of future of gaming, metaverse, and VR in general are my wonderful friends who have been on the show before, the Classic Gaming Brothers, Seth and Zach. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad 3 out of the 4 of us are surviving winter and all that it brings to New England. Mr. David Perry apparently is getting like nothing over there.
My people are not built for cold climates.
Isn't that like all that like West Virginia is? It's just like the mountains. Don't you guys get like all that stuff? I remember playing Oregon Trail, and every time we go near West Virginia, the Appalachian Trail, there was lots of snow.
There can be lots of snow, yes. It's also really hot, and we have mudslides and wildfires and all that other stuff too. So
if I learned anything from Oregon Trail, you also have a lot of dysentery.
Yeah. Or rattlesnake bite. You can always
rattlesnake bite.
always talk about a rattlesnake bite.
There is a game that's actually based off of a town in West Virginia. Silent Hill is
yeah.
There's
Right.
What's the name of that town?
And Fallout 76. The
That's
vault was in
true.
West Virginia. It was at the over by the Greenbrier.
Have you played 76?
I played it a little bit. Not very in depth, and I bought it at release, and it was buggy.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some problems, and then I stopped playing it, and then they fixed a lot of the problems, and I just haven't gone back.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, but there are some landmarks from West Virginia where I live in Huntington. There's a place called Camden Park, and some of the Camden Park architecture is in the game. The Greenbrier Hotel in White Sulphur Springs. There was a bomb shelter. Actually, the Congressional Bomb Shelter is built there. You can tour it now. It was built underneath this resort. And Mothman is probably the most famous, the West Virginia cryptids up in Parkersburg. So I think all that appeared in some form in Fallout 76.
That's awesome. I remember when Fallout 3 came out, because I lived in Virginia, we would go to DC all the time as school trips. Like I went to DC in there and I was looking around to see where the locations of stuff, and I was like, no, that's not right. This museum is actually over on this side. They have it on the wrong side of the I was like, no, that's not. But I'm like, whatever, it's a game.
It's like when Fallout 4 came out, and you could explore Boston I was working in Boston when I was playing it at one point, and I was like, I could find my office. I was like, that office right there, that's mine. There's a dead guy in front of it. That could be me.
How inaccurate was where the what was the oh my god, this is how you know I'm not a sports guy. So Go Sports Team, the was it Wrigley?
Fenway?
Field? Yeah, Fenway.
Oh yeah, Fenway.
Yeah, it's like fairly accurate to where it should be,
Okay.
but it's like the scale's all off. It's like,
of course.
Yeah. It's
We're here to talk about Fallout tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for the show. Actually, you guys were back on the show. Oh my gosh, this was back in
The early days.
yes, the early days of the show. You guys are now.
Right.
You've been around for over 2 years now.
20, yeah. So we started in December of 2019, and we just recorded our 114th episode. I don't know. We're at the point where we just kind of lose track of what we've done, but
That's awesome.
So solid 2 years worth of Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's awesome. And you were engaged. You're now married.
I am now married. Yes. Yes, I have gotten married.
Congratulations.
It was a lot of fun.
What other things have you gentlemen been up to?
We did attend a video game convention. I guess that's kind of like the thing that we've been up to that's relevant.
Okay.
We attended a video game convention in Hartford, Connecticut, called Retro World Expo, where there was actually like Metal Jesus and the Video Game Historian were there as guests. There was a lot of it's definitely more of a, I would say more of a trade show or an expo versus like a PAX event. You're not going to see necessarily a lot of new games there, but there's a lot of vendors where if you collect like retro video games. There's a lot of good vendors there that you can pick up some stuff.
Nice.
Zach and I, we talked about it at some point in time, and where if you're looking for something specific, Retro World Expo is a good place to go to. If you want something specific at a good price, maybe not, but but you will find it. But if you wanted like an Atari Lynx or what was it, the Sega Pico.
The Pico,
If you wanted something like that, where it's a
something
little more obscure, you'll find it. You'll pay for it though. That's for sure. Like they know what the value of stuff is.
I saw like 3 Magnavox Odysseys, which is the first video game system there. I mean, they're all at price. They're like $400-$500 a pop, but that's the most I've ever seen in one place is 3 Magnavox Odysseys in one place.
Probably. I guarantee you, like every video game console was available to purchase somewhere, except for maybe the PS5.
So are most of the games there, most of the products that people are selling, are they consoles from ColecoVision on up, or are there PC games or computer or like TRS-80 type games too?
So it's primarily your Nintendo and your cartridge base, like Super Nintendo, Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega Genesis type of sales. That I would say is probably 70% of the bulk, with like some N64. PC big box games, I think I saw. So that's one thing that I look for to buy. 10 available, and they're going to fetch a premium. So it's primarily more of that. I would say like the more mainstream retro collector is what it was, at least from what I saw. There were people who just brought their stuff, like they were like, I'm just bringing like a yard sale, and they did have an auction system as well. And we didn't poke around the auction a lot because there were some crazy, it was like stuff that was just going to go for a price that we weren't going to even get close to paying.
So there's an end point for all of this, for all of that, because now you don't get a game anymore, right?
Right.
You go and you buy a card and it has a download code, or like to get Fallout 76. When I bought Fallout 76, it comes in a package,
right?
But you open it up and there's a cardboard disc inside that says, here's your code. There's no physical game anymore.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going now, right? So at some point there's an end date when your device even took a disc. Now it's all downloaded, right?
Right. And I think there is a resurgence of nostalgic collectors, because we're at the point in time in the world where the people who grew up playing Nintendo Entertainment Systems, SNES, Sega Genesis are all adults now, right?
With disposable income.
With disposable income and the desire to buy the things that they did not have as a child because their parents wouldn't allow them to. And so those people are out there building up collections. There's a resurgence of the same era of people being like, I could make my own Nintendo game. So we've seen like homebrew scenes where people have released brand new Nintendo Entertainment, Sega Genesis, SNES games, like released 2022, 2021, where some of them program on a ROM based system and they flash the ROM to the cartridge, and some actually program in like 6502 assembly language, which is how the original Nintendo was programmed in. So it's kind of cool seeing that. Mind you, it's a small niche of the gaming population. I would say most gamers today may not even really pay attention to that and do just consume digitally, but there is that niche. I mean, we fall in that niche because we run a podcast about classic gaming, so like it's kind of like where we live 100% of the time. But my ISC and what your ISC are entirely different things.
Well, would you foresee as kids growing up today, my grandkids are 12, 13, 14 years old. When they get to a certain age, would you foresee like a collector's edition releasing a CD or releasing something that is physical and tangible, just as there's this resurgence of vinyl, Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You go to the store now. You go to Walmart or you go to a big box store. Vinyl sales are exceeding CD sales because everyone else is consuming MP3s or downloads through Apple or through Spotify or some other service. I mean, do you foresee that happening?
That's already happening. There's a company called Limited Run Productions that does that. So it takes on
I'm wearing
digital.
One of their shirts.
Okay.
Yes, they do. They take either digital stuff that's only available digitally on like Switch, and they make physical releases of it. They take new games. So like they just did like a Zombies Ate My Neighbors. You guys remember that game?
Oh my god!
So they did that, and they were releasing. So you could buy the SNES cartridge or the Sega Genesis cartridge of Zombies Ate My Neighbors today being made. I think it's still being made because
it's a brand new cartridge. It's not like they're taking old stock and repurposing it. Brand new, like fresh chips on a fresh board. Sold legally, licensed. They got the permission from the company that made the game, so they're 100% legit. They do that with a Mega Man game, Mega Man: The Wily Wars, which originally came out in the Sega Genesis. Limited Run just released kind of a similar thing. But I think to your point, you do have some kind of growing market of younger and younger audiences to these type of things, because you do have people out there that are on YouTube or podcasts and stuff that are appealing to audiences that are people younger than me who are getting into game collecting. I see that a lot when you're watching YouTube videos of people like Metal Jesus we referenced earlier. I mean, his crowd, it's a combination of people that are like Seth and my age, but also there's kind of a younger crowd there that is kind of growing into an interest in collecting. A memory I had recently, I was at a Savers and I saw a kid who probably had to be maybe like 10 years younger than me, excited to find big box games at a Savers. And these were like games that he definitely wasn't alive when they came out, but he was like, big box games. He was like, that's awesome. And, you could tell he was kind of getting into that mindset of collecting, which, that's nice to see. I like to see, it's good to see that collecting still is kind of a thing for people of all generations.
Right. Well, and then to play those games, you have to have a drive. You have to either have an optical drive or an old 3.5 or a 5.25 inch drive. My ATX case over here, there's no drive bay in the front.
Yeah.
Right.
Much less an IDE controller.
Right. And I think there is a departure between those who primarily collect consoles and console gaming and those who do like PC gaming. So like I'm primarily a PC gamer and I don't own a lot of physical copies of things. It's mostly attached to my digital libraries, which I've been a member of for 12, 13 years. I've been, amassing these digital libraries. And I feel like but there's still that like nostalgic factor of having your like SNES and your cartridge and the way that you can play it in like the living room especially if you have a child and you were a retro collector or are a retro collector or still have your SNES and you introduce your child to playing it then they're going to have positive memories of that older game system. And I think they would impart those memories down. I do think eventually that so the one thing is it kind of like goes back to like the vinyl comment and like, there's not a lot of people out there that collect like 8-track, but it was still a medium that was used for audio songs. However, I feel like vinyl, you get a different sound than if you played it as an MP3.
Yes.
Like that's a definite fact. But there's not much different if you collect like a cassette tape or a CD-ROM versus what it's digitally. So is there really a need to collect banks of CDs or cassette tapes anymore? Maybe not. I mean, maybe for somebody, but video games can be limited to play. So if you want to play that specific experience, you need to collect that particular cartridge or find it digitally as a ROM. So if you wanted to play Paperboy in its original release, you would need to either get it on the cartridge or play it in some sort of ROM state, which because they're not going to make but they're not going to like remaster or re-release the Paperboy in its current state. But so I feel like that's going to lead people to want to collect, especially bigger games like the SNES and your NES and your Game Boys. Are people going to go out there and collect their Atari Lynxes or Magnavox Odysseys? No, maybe not. But except for those like really like niche collectors, as it were.
Now, do you see kind of speculation among collectors, or is it just people who want to play something from their childhood, or do you see people thinking, I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to sit on it?
Yeah.
Or 5-10 years or whatever.
So there's been this huge trend now with grading video games. Specifically, there's been a couple of companies that are involved in the grading process. One kind of got into some controversy with some potential allegations that they are not up to par, which is WADA games. And what you see is you have these it's almost like a game collecting bubble, where if you look at the price trends from the past 5 years, there's this massive spike right around the time WADA came onto the scene with their grading process. And whether or not that's going to help the community in the long run that's certainly a debate, potentially for a whole other DNA episode, but there certainly is speculation. One of the problems is that a lot of these grading companies, not to from what I've heard, because I don't want to obviously state anything that I believe is fact, if there's any, I want to hold myself liable here. But from what I have heard, some of these grading companies don't release population reports, which is really crucial when you have a grading company. So what you might have is like a company might say, hey, we have this graded copy of this Atari game, we're going to auction it for $500,000. The moment they put that up to auction, 1,000 copies of that game might just suddenly surface because everyone thinks it's worth that much money, because they're not doing population reports. So they are creating the value. And that's where you can get speculation kind of come in. And there's certainly people who are just kind of like buying games now to just sit on them. I've heard stories of people who send 100 games off to get graded. They'll get them all in their nice little boxes and they'll just put them away in storage and like let them sit, and they'll put them in auction if that comes to a point.
So there's a population of people who is investing in that game, correct? Whatever it is, that the Super Mario Brothers from whatever.
Yeah.
But then there are also people, like for instance, I know I jokingly mentioned the gold box D&D games. If I just want to play gold box Pool of Radiance, or Death Knights of Krynn or one of those, I can just go to an emulator and play it that way. Yep. So you have both of those people in this population who go to this event.
Oh yeah. It's a massive mixture. I mean, I saw graded games by WADA at the event we were at, next to copies of games that were just kind of like sitting there for you to grab if you wanted to. So there's kind of it's one of those situations where I think as with any collecting community, there are so many kind of like subgroups of people who collect. Like, for example, I like collecting bootleg games. That's my thing. It's just like, that's been the thing that I like doing. Even in my sphere, there's people who like only collect certain type of bootleg games versus other types. And some like other game collectors actually frown on bootleg game collectors. They think it's like this dirty thing because you're buying games that are not licensed, sort of deal. But I just think they're fun. I think they're funny. So that's why I buy them. So that's where you get those conflicts, but most of the time it's mostly just people on the internet yelling at each other. At these conventions, you don't.
That's really what the internet is now, right?
Yeah. Right. At these conventions, you don't really get arguments like that spring up. You kind of just get everyone kind of in one place experiencing it for themselves.
So let me ask you guys this, since lovely tangent, by the way, since we're talking about cons, I'm actually taking my wife to her first con. Hopefully, if I'm looking at going to the 90s con in Hartford.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, the 90s generation or 80s babies are so fixated on 1990s, they're actually having a convention in Hartford, Connecticut.
Sure. Yeah, my sister wanted to go.
Well, it's March 11th to the 13th. So I think tickets are still going on for it and everything. So Melissa Joan Hart. They're gonna have like the Spice Girls outfits there and everything like that.
That's awesome.
But we did not come to talk about the 90s con, nor did we talk. We did come talk about gaming, and it's always fun to talk about the retro side. But the reason I brought you guys on because you are my retro gamers. You are, and David, you were there.
No, I mean, I was.
That's what you mean by retro.
No, but the way that technology is evolving, and what we came to talk on tonight was the VR gaming, the metaverse, and the future of gaming, and how we see this going. Because Oculus is one of those headsets out there right now. Steam has one. I think Microsoft is coming out with one. Yeah. Sony has one that connects to their PlayStations. There's all these virtual reality gaming systems out there. Sure. And looking at how that affects overall gaming versus gaming that you guys idolize so much. Like I think there'll eventually be a day where you have an episode, if you guys continue your podcast, where you're like, remember the very first VR game that, you know, or not even VR game, but like, hey, remember playing Resident Evil 4 on Oculus Quest 2?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That'll be an episode for you guys eventually. But it's I'm curious to see what your guys' perspective, how you feel technology is evolving in the gaming world. So let's look at this. Let's break this down into pieces here. If we look at gaming systems from when you went from let's say Nintendo and Sega SNES, the Super Nintendo to N64, the time frame in between those consoles was dramatic. There was a larger gap in between them. Versus now when you look at, say, Xbox 360 to Xbox One to Xbox X to now we have the Xbox Series, in case in point with the PlayStations 1 through 5. Like it's so much more aggressive. Let's start with that. How do you guys perceive that? And looking in the future of gaming, how does that, what do you think is happening here and what's going to happen?
I actually I think it's funny that you talk about the like kind of like the genesis to the N64 gap.
Yeah.
I was reading a 1998 Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine. It had an article about the N64 coming out, an article about the Sega channel that was available to be able to like play Sega games on your TV, an article about the Virtual Boy, and like other like all these different like intersections of all these different time periods, all in one magazine, because it was all kind of happening at once. Because I think at the end of the day, companies always want to make another system because they want to convert people to another purchase. Especially because video game systems have always been a bigger purchase as well. And it's a gateway to a marketplace, right? At the end of the day, if you buy a PlayStation 5, you're going to need PlayStation 5 video games. And PlayStation's going to take a percentage of every video game that you buy on their system because they need to license the technology to make it and so on and so forth. So, and then they want to hype up the next system. Now we're in a fun zone where there's supply chain constrictions, so they're not able to get the PlayStation 5 deployed to everybody, right? Because people still don't have it who want it. And it's been out for 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
2 years, and somebody who still wants it can't get it? Like, that's PlayStation can't in good conscience make any moves to move to a new system until it's been in the market for a while. We actually were just talking about the Game Boy recently, and they talked to the VP of marketing at Nintendo in 94. So in 98, Game Boy moved on to the Game Boy Color, right? Before that, it was from 1989 to 98 was just the Game Boy. Really? And all the other like iterations of the Game Boy, like Game Boy Light, Game Boy Pocket, but still the Game Boy at the end of the day. They asked him in 1994, they said, hey, Nintendo, other companies have made a color portable console. When are you going to make a color portable console? And they said, whoa, when the Game Boy stopped selling so well,
Yeah.
why bother? Right? It's still selling so successfully. Why bother changing it? So I think in the a roundabout way of answering your question, I think that we're going to see like the changes. I think there is going to be a pause between what the current generation is out in 2022 to whatever the next generation is going to be out, strictly due to the pandemic pushing everything out.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I was going to ask that. How do you think the pandemic affected technology in this way?
100% is delayed. Whatever plans they've had, they've probably delayed. Especially on the hardware side, it's delayed a lot of the hardware releases, right?
Semiconductor shortage and stuff.
Semiconductor shortages. They can't experiment with new stuff if they can't even get it in house. And I also feel like there is some level of social responsibility that a company needs to have where they like release something to 50% of the population that wants it and then say, just kidding, we're going to do a new one. Like, there would people be up in arms, if they made like a PlayStation 6 during this time. Like, if they'd be like,
there is a plan.
2-3 years. Oh, sure, there's always a plan. Like, they're beholden to shareholders and they need to make money, so there is always a plan. And I think with the kind of like the layering of VR to that, it's another marketplace and another place that you can consume their products through. VR, so you mentioned, so like Valve has the Index, HTC has the Vive, Facebook now, it's I think a Meta, it's called like Meta something now.
The third one's going to be the Meta.
Yeah. So they've disbranded Oculus and it's now just Meta go forward. And I have like opinions on Facebook and Meta and all that crap, and I've been like stewing on it for a while.
I will say this: it's a genius market because it's an unlimited market. You have an infinite amount of space as long as you have the server storage.
So I feel that a lot of things happen because Silicon Valley decides that they're going to happen, and then the media gets hyped onto it. So like Silicon Valley's like, we're going to make digital currency. And the media is like, digital currency? What is that? And then people start buying into digital currency, adding value to digital currency.
Even though it's inherently worthless.
Yeah. I mean,
bingo.
I think one of the best points best examples is the Google Glass, or like the Google Glass that they had back.
Oh my god, I remember that. Yeah,
everyone was so hyped for it. This idea that you could wear like a HUD on your glasses and you would be the coolest person. I knew one person in my entire sphere of influence that ever had their hands on a Google Glasses because his company gave it to him like for free. Like they're just like, we don't want this, and they gave it to him. And that was 10 years like after it was a thing. Like they just had them still. It completely. What happened was Google announced this thing, and then like the media hyped it up so much to the point that when it was released, you had this expectation bubble that popped. Basically, once people realized what they were getting, it was not really ended up being worth it. I think the thing with the metaverse, at least looking at kind of Facebook's idea, and I think one example I think of when I think of metaverse is specifically that like tech demo that they showed of a Walmart, of someone like in a VR setting walking through a Walmart VR wise, like picking stuff off the virtual shelf. I think that's a very fascinating idea, very interesting idea. But the problem with VR is it's currently not at a price point where that will be worth it to anybody, because anyone who could afford a VR is either not shopping at Walmart or will just go to Walmart. Like they don't need to virtually VR through Walmart. Whereas if they made a VR system to be economic, something that anyone could buy, I don't see why that wouldn't be a bad idea. That would be great for accessibility, great for people who don't live in an area that's close to major shopping centers, great for people with disabilities, but right now it's targeting such a small demographic that
I have to disagree with you there. And I think Seth, I'll let Seth say his bit, and I want to come back to that.
I want to say VR will become cheaper.
It's absolutely
eventually.
No, it's not even going to be that long.
They're going to subsidize it though.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen because it's just like the Kindle Fire. Do you know what the cheapest tablet available in the market right now is? The Amazon Kindle Fire. Do you know why? Because it brings you the Kindle store and the Amazon store to your hands. They don't care. Amazon doesn't care. They'll sell it to you at a loss. They'll say, here you go. Here's $10, whatever. What are you going to do with it? You're going to buy Amazon products.
You're going to see all their ads.
Right. And you're going to see ads and you're going to buy their products. Oh, you want to watch Amazon Prime Video on your Kindle Fire? You're going to pay for that. You want to buy a book? You got to pay for that. You're going to play a video game on it? You're going to pay for it. Like they're going to do that with the VR equipment. They're going to say here, you can get your Meta $50. Here you go.
Right. And it's hardwired into Alexa and it's hardwired into your Fire TV and all that. Yes.
And then you're just gonna go into a company's ecosystem. So you put on your Meta glasses, which will be cheap, and then you'll go through the Meta world and you'll be able to only buy Meta products.
Well, because you're the product.
Exactly.
Yeah. You are the product. You and your metadata are the product.
Yeah. Exactly. Once Facebook bought Oculus, it was already like that because you had to have a Facebook account to sign up for any Oculus stuff. Like to effectively to run the Oculus properly, you needed a Facebook account.
Now, before we start, because I feel like this is going to go super negative on Facebook and the Oculus, I have one. And I absolutely love it. All right. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. No, they're great devices.
The device is amazing. I'm not going to lie. I there's nothing better than sticking a spoon into a zombie's face. That's all I gotta say. Saints and Sinners is an awesome game.
I don't think this is going to be negative on Meta. I think, or Facebook themselves. I think I have negative opinions of Facebook's leadership.
Fair
I don't think Meta is inherently a bad company. I think their leadership could use some work. So,
and before going too off track, because I like this conversation, if you look at, because recently in history, PlayStation or Sony, just for some reason, they bought Bungie for a ludicrous amount of money,
which Microsoft sold.
Microsoft sold it to them. Said, yeah, all right.
Microsoft said, we don't need you anymore. Goodbye.
But then Microsoft just bought Activision, Blizzard.
Yeah.
Did they get THQ with them as well?
No, THQ Nordic is owned by a different company.
Okay,
they were bought by a weird. They were bought by a weird company.
They did get King, which is the Candy Crush people.
Yes.
Which is that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
We laugh, but that's a good buy.
That was a wonderful buy on them, and
it's something in the realm of like in the last 10 years they've purchased 17 big development studios.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
And one of them was Bungie, and then
right
it later.
So is the issue that we have conceptually with Meta or anything, is it just the ubiquity, and is it the monopoly of a single product controlling all of that infrastructure, both in terms of hardware plus the product and hardwiring you into a single experience, because there's no cross station or cross platform Sony and Xbox Live. Is that kind of the issue that Facebook or Meta would be controlling all of this? Is that the issue?
They could. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. One, like me and Meta, I have like a lot of different negative, like different thoughts about them. But I think
voice your opinion. Please voice your opinion, because that's why I brought you guys on here. Because
sure,
do you see us being Ready Player One, or is this,
it could, right?
Or Ollie, what is it? Wally's, what was the company shot, like basically was making fun of Walmart, and now it's like, if you look at it, it's Amazon.
Yeah. My opinion of that is, so there's actually a game called Tacoma, and this game is a great walking simulator game that is story driven and is done by the people who did Gone Home, which is a very popular walking simulator game.
Mhm.
And Tacoma takes place on a space station, and you have to figure out what happened on the space station. You're the only person on there, and you're going through like audio logs and trying to piece out the mystery. And I won't spoil anything, but they live in a world where all those people on that space station worked for a company, and they were paid for by that company through the company loyalty points. So they didn't make real currency, but they were essentially
You're talking
a
about
wage
crypto.
slave to that company. Now, what if there was a digital currency that you could interlace with your digital world and have people work digital jobs to make digital money through the metaverse?
I mean, that's a thing.
It could happen.
It happened in like Second Life did that.
But you have like NFTs, which are like non-fungible transactions, right? So you could buy digital goods and they would exist in the metaverse.
Yeah.
With your digital currency that can all come from Facebook or Meta or whatever, whatever company. Amazon could Amazon could have a VR goggle tomorrow if they wanted. They have enough money that they could just, here you go, this is ours.
I mean, Jeff Bezos did pretty much just said, "Hey, one weekend I'm going out to space and there's a spaceship." So
But isn't that kind of Ready Player One? I mean, that's
totally.
the Oasis, right?
Yeah,
that's the Oasis,
right? Exactly.
So how far are we from either the Oasis or another experience you were talking about? Having VR and them going to Walmart to go shopping or going to a mall in Santa Cruz or whatever. That's surrogates. I don't know if you remember that movie with Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
But that, how far are we from that in terms of a gaming experience?
It's tough. Like I can see us getting closer to Summer Wars. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. It's an anime, but it's from like it's by the guy who actually created Digimon, but it's like this idea of this digital world where not just a place for gaming, but it's also a place where like healthcare systems are tied into, and in government like infrastructure is getting tied into and stuff like that. And something goes wrong in the movie, and obviously bad things are going to happen if your government is tied to a video game. But when you look at like the use of Oculus potentially in places like I think NASA is using VR for stuff. You have the military using Oculus tech for stuff. It's starting to get there. Like we are starting to blend multiple facets of our world into one piece of tech that's soon going to be owned by, or is owned by, one major company. So if the military needs a bunch of Oculuses, Facebook's getting the bill for that.
Well, yeah, they might. I mean, there's other companies that make VR equipment.
Well, I just specifically mean Oculus, though. Like if because let's say for like hypothetically, like the government orders a bunch of meta goggles in the future, hospitals will order meta goggles. Everyone's going to order meta goggles. That's like we get to that ubiquitous of potential Ready Player One. It's certainly interesting. I mean, the mind boggles, that's for sure, about how soon that would be.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, because I feel like we went down this grim, dark path with VR systems. So I'm sitting here and like,
I will say I love VR. Like, I'm not trying to like bash VR. I think VR is the coolest darn thing in the world. So like,
I think we need to put Seth in timeout, but for a minute with his negative ideas.
No, but that's that's the logical extreme.
It is, yes.
I mean that is the logical extreme of where it's going, because right now VR is you play Beat Saber or you play Job Simulator. I don't know why anybody would want to play VR Job Simulator.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
I have a job, so I don't know what I need to simulate it. But it seems like what are the popular VR games are shooters? Are they sports games, flight sims, or where is that right now and where is it going next?
There definitely is a lot of, shooters, flight sims, stuff like that. I feel like the bigger thing that's starting to kind of come out of VR recently is where you get more of adventure games like Half-Life Alyx, which are more narrative stories, versus games like Job Simulator or other type of simulator games where, like, for example, Job Simulator is a very fun game, but for the most part, you are confined to like one section while you're like doing stuff. Whereas in Half-Life Alyx, you have a world to explore and wander around. So as we kind of start to seamlessly do games that are a bit more open world in a VR sense, I think that's probably the next obvious progression. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Skyrim style game, not like a mod of Skyrim that puts it in VR, but like a Half-Life Alyx equivalent of an open world like Skyrim game.
The Skyrim already has it. They already have it.
They still have Skyrim VR.
And yeah, but like something that's a bit more on, like, I think my understanding of the Skyrim VR is you still actually have to have a controller, like while you're playing. If I'm not, I might be mistaken. No, you don't. Okay, I haven't actually
do it. You can do it. You can actually do it like full blown. You can connect your Oculus to your computer if you have Skyrim VR on Steam, PlayStation 5. They have it with the wands and everything.
Yeah.
But I was actually going to bring that up. I'm so glad you said that one. And is like retro gaming in VR. It's out there.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you can do it.
It's case in point. Resident Evil 4, Skyrim. What was another one? I was just, oh my god, my son is obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy.
Oh yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy, the original one that was on like your iPhone 3, is now a VR game.
That would take a poop.
I did. I pooped myself. I'm a grown man who's fought war, and a mechanical digital bear scared the crap out of me as it looks over to my side, and I'm like, it's right there, and then it jumps at me. Oh, dude, I screamed like a 5-year-old little girl.
There's also there's like an arcade simulator where you can actually load up ROMs into cabinets, and you like walk into the arcade, go to the like machine, and just play like Pac-Man in VR on your cabinet.
Didn't Namco do something like that for like a PlayStation
they might have
a while back ago?
Yeah.
They have one for the Sega too, where you sit in like a living room and you have like a shelf full of Sega games, and you pull the cartridge off and put it in.
Well, the one I'm thinking of is even cooler because it's partially run through RetroArch, which is like a massive multi-system emulator, but it allows you to like do custom like floor for your arcade. So if you want to have like the classic like 1980s ugly carpets on your arcade floor, you can have that. You can like, I think you can create your own neon signs to go up behind like your marquees, and you can put anything in there. Yeah. And there's also it has like skee ball and bowling and like non-arcade games in the arcade that you're in, because of course it would. I mean, like, there'd be skee ball.
And here's
a claw machine.
And claw machine,
Here's an interesting thing. Everything you guys are saying could easily be put into a virtual house in the metaverse.
Sure.
Very easily. And I know we keep saying the metaverse, and it's come to my attention to think about it. Like, there's people out there that probably aren't familiar or know what the metaverse is, or as well as NFTs. Gentlemen, do you think you could educate our listeners on what the metaverse is and all that it entails?
I could. So I could take an NFT real quick. So an NFT is a non-fungible token, essentially.
Fungible.
Non-fungible.
I like yours better though.
It's digital, so there's no fungus either. And it's a token. Essentially, is a digital record of your ownership of something. That could be an art. It could be really anything that could be in a digital, like a GIF. You can digitally own it. It's a record, and it says that you are the owner. You can buy it, and you can sell it, and it's funded. It's powered by Ethereum. So there's like Ether, which is Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, and it's a coin on its own. So they've like using portions of the Ethereum, they can make a product that you then can purchase using Ethereum. And Zach, I don't know if you can describe it better than that, but that's my understanding of it.
No, that's basically
it's a digital currency funded by a digital currency.
It's a digital product.
Digital product funded by a digital
currency. And there's a big.
It's not necessarily the product. What you're getting is effectively like the receipt of the product. So like, as an example, let's say you have an NFT of a picture of my face. You could easily just have a picture of my face. Like, you could screenshot my face and have that picture. But if you pay for the NFT, then you get a little receipt that just says, this is yours. Now, anyone can screenshot this and save it to their computer, but you're the one with the receipt that says it's yours.
And I know we're mocking it over here a little bit, and it is funny. It's like, no, it's totally crazy. But people have made millions of dollars off of this, which is mind-boggling, like, to think about.
It goes back to the hype, and even back to our conversation regarding video game grading. People are gonna, if you hype it enough, people are gonna sell it, and it's going to draw interest. And if you have enough buyers, you can sell it for a lot of money.
Yeah,
true.
So how's that different from crypto? From Bitcoin or
really?
other cryptocurrencies?
The cryptocurrency has an established value, right? So it's traded and its value is dictated by the market. Your NFT has a value similar to art, so it would be appraised differently. So like you may have Ethereum could hit rock bottom and be worthless, but your NFT may have value still. So you could have it. So like if I had $1,000 and also a painting by a reputable artist, if something happened to the dollar, it got worth less because inflation happened, and my $1,000 wouldn't have as much buying power. But my painting by my reputable artist may increase in value, right? It may be inflation proof. So that's kind of your difference between your currency and your NFTs, where the currency kind of is dictated by the market at the point in time.
So what actually who backs the cryptocurrency? Because
the market.
Okay, but
right?
then right, but if I go to the bank and I withdraw $100, they give me $100 bill. They give me a piece of paper which everyone agrees is worth $100.
Correct.
Theoretically, that is backed by the United States government, right?
Correct.
So, or if I'm in Europe and I go to the ATM and I get 100 euros, I have a bill that everyone agrees is worth 100 euros and so on.
Correct. Those fiat currency. So that currency is what it is based on the fiat of the sovereign nation.
Right. So as long as I'm in the EU and I'm spending euros, everyone agrees that bill that has the 100 and the watermark on it, everyone agrees that that's worth 100 euro, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So with cryptocurrency, and I'll use Bitcoin just because it's the most well known. So who's backing Bitcoin, and did everyone just agree that, we're going to agree that one Bitcoin is worth, I'm making up a number, $70,000, and then it's traded, but there's no actual entity that backs that currency other than the market. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, there is an entity that has created it, but they can own multiple shares of it, right? But because the thing with Bitcoins and a lot of these, especially the early cryptocurrency, is they have a market cap. There is a limited amount. There's a finite number of them that exist. So the value of them by the laws of supply and demand would go up when there's less of them. So as they're harder to mine and they're harder to. And mining cryptocurrency is you have a computer that does math essentially at a wall of code and may eventually release a portion of a coin. And then that portion of that record, that code that you unearthed stays in like a storage somewhere, like a wallet. So that's how new currency comes in. Similar to how it may be printed by the U.S. government. Right. And then there is the market that will trade on it. There is one price. Like Bitcoin is only worth, say, $37,000. But every single market says that it's $37,000. So if you buy on Coinbase or you buy on eToro, it's going to be the same. You're paying the same price I'm paying. And it's really set by the people who are selling it. And what the price is set by the market. And so if it decided to, so I have currencies, right? So I have multiple different coins. If all of them decided to just tomorrow go kaput, right? Somebody turned the servers off, whatever. Something catastrophic happened and they all lost value.
The EMP blows up the world.
Sure. Sure. Whatever. Something happens. I would lose money. any money that I put into it is gone. But it's not dissimilar to buying a stock of a company. If you buy a stock of Amazon, and then all of a sudden Amazon went bankrupt, you would not, they wouldn't pay you. You would get zero money. You wouldn't be able to sell your share. No one would want it. Yeah. And that's kind of how coins kind of exist, which is because you make a good point that they're who's saying what's their value and who's regulating it.
Yeah.
No one. Which is a problem because what can you do with it? Anything. So if I wanted to, because it's an established value, right? So it's the same amount of money USD as it is here, as it is in Australia. And if I needed to buy, say, something illicit and I needed to pay them, I could pay with it via a blockchain and the cryptocurrency. And who would check on that? No one. There's no one regulating it. There's no serial numbers. There's a record of it, right? So if they could figure out that your transferred, wallet. There's a wallet, so they would see a wallet transaction.
But
and that's
arguably cryptocurrency can be easier to launder than legit
100%. Money.
Like, and you see people who launder cryptocurrency because they'll buy illicit things, and they don't want people to see that they buy the illicit things.
Right. It's how the Silk Road made, because I'm like, where you could buy a hit on somebody if you wanted to, and you'd pay with Bitcoin, and there you go. And if they have enough intermediaries, you can muddy the water real, like, because you can have a to transfer money to somebody is instantaneous. Where if you want to transfer dollars to somebody, it's a process.
Yeah. Right.
Like if I wanted to go to the bank and do a wire transfer, there's still mechanical things that they have to like EFT somebody something, electronic funds transfer. There's still like switches that have to be manually pulled still in order to or is ACH.
Well, and regulators.
Yeah, right. And everything's serial now. Like people know like exactly how many what dollars, and they could trace it back to the dollar bill and know exactly. And auditors.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, to answer Steve's question about what the metaverse is.
That's my boy, Zach. That's my boy. Way to bring it back.
The metaverse really is, and anyone can step in here and say whatever I think. For the most part, when I think I'm referring to the metaverse, I'm referring to the buzzword catch-all for a virtual environment, which, like, for example, Second Life, which is old. I mean, it's from like 2003. But I would consider Second Life to be an example of what the metaverse could be. You can have a home in Second Life. You can have a business in Second Life. You can go to the movies in Second Life. You can go to the arcade in Second Life. There was like an art exhibit run by like some random band like in Second Life for a period of time, and they ran a server. You can sell property on Second Life, and make real money in Second Life. I'm not trying to like sell Second Life here, but I think Second Life is kind of the perfect example of what I think of when I think of metaverse. It's this virtual world that we have built where you can live a life in this world that is fully virtual. You know, you can have your home, you can have your car, you can be who you want to be, and it can be separate than the person sitting behind the computer or wearing the Oculus.
And that's not even, I love that example. That's a great example, but a more current one that we could use, Eve.
Oh yeah.
Eve is like one of those games that like people literally build these ships. Some of them just go from planet to asteroid or whatever, and they mine something and they sell it. And people are using real money to buy this virtual item. And it's that's a thing.
Yeah.
But you know, World of Warcraft is another example. People pay people to get gold and items. I never did it, but I remember my friends like back in high school, back in like 2005, 2006, paying people or being paid to go level up characters from like 1 to 10 and to get them through all the BS stuff.
Yeah. There was a news story that came out back in World of Warcraft's heyday about the Chinese government actually having people in jail mine gold and selling it for
gold farmers
gold farming for a side job. Like the money would go to the Chinese government, but like they would just like you could be in jail and they would just put you at your like a desk, or you'd log into a World of Warcraft account paid for by the Chinese government, but you would be mining gold all day.
That's insane and genius at the same time.
I think though, the Eve is a great example of what happens when it's unregulated, though, because there was a player in Eve who decided that he was going to be the bank. That was going to be his job. So he had the ability to write contracts in Eve. He had the ability to store people's ISK, which is their currency, and he would borrow. He would collect money. He would store it. He would keep it safe. He would give loans out with an interest rate, and he just ran a Eve online bank. So here's the part where the unregulation comes in. One day he decided he didn't want to be a bank anymore. So he decided he was going to take all of the money that he collected from the hundreds of players and just buy the biggest starship that he could and tell everybody, guess what? I took all of your money and I bought this starship. Come get me.
Yeah.
And people, I think, lost somewhere in tunes of like, I don't know, thousands of dollars was lost because he stole it. Well, he didn't steal. Like they gave it.
No, they gave it to him consensually.
Yeah, it was a voluntary parting, is what the insurance company would say. But yeah, and it was huge. Like it was a big scam. It was I think early mid to late 2000s. But it was a thing. Like news companies reported on this guy just being like, yep, here it is. I mean, tech news companies, not like but
Channel 8 News has got a helicopter above his house.
So is the logical extreme of this, I mean, is that Ready Player One or Free Guy, that the Free Guy movie with Ryan Reynolds? Is that kind of the logical extension of what you're talking about, the virtual world that people can live in?
Yeah, I hope that it's more Free Guy than Ready Player One, because Ready Player One is kind of dystopic, where Free Guy is still like the people still have normal lives outside of the video game.
I agree. Yes.
So I would prefer like a Free Guy world, but yeah, I don't see why we can't go there. I don't see why it's going to get muddy in regards to ultimately who controls that world, right? Because you're going to complicate things if you have multiple worlds to go into, and you're going to have like the Amazon, like, are they going to come together and make one big world? Which is, I think, dangerous when you think, Zach was saying earlier that when he thinks metaverse, he thinks of a virtual world, which is bad, because you're now turning metaverse into the common noun. Kind of like how when you think of escalators, you think of the things that go up the stairs, right? You get on that's an Otis word, right? Escalator is a word that Otis said, these are escalators. This is our technology. And we don't call them stair movers, like automatic stair movers. We call them escalators or band-aids, right? Band-aids is it's the common noun,
or Xerox, right?
Xerox,
yes.
Exactly. So that's what's going to happen to the metaverse, and it's going to be, and I believe that's going to happen partly because Mark Zuckerberg decided to rename his company Meta, right? So he took the decision to be like, I'm going to rebrand, I'm going to call my company Meta, and we're going to start a metaverse. And now people are like, oh, metaverse, that's what I can refer to the virtual world. But now it's, because he's rebranded himself, he's now kind of positioning himself to be the owner of the terminology. And if you're the owner of the terminology, you're already giving yourself a market advantage, right? If you go to the store, you're looking for Band-Aids. You're not looking for CVS adhesive strips, right? You may buy CVS adhesive strips because it's cheap, but you're looking for Band-Aids. A Kleenex, same with the Kleenex or tissue,
So what's going to stop Zuckerberg or Facebook or Meta, the company Meta, from becoming the ubiquity of the Oasis in Ready Player One, for example? Because in MMOs, WoW is the largest. It's still the largest of the MMOs, but you still have choices. There are still other MMOs out there that people play. So it's fragmented. Some people play Secret World, some people play Lord of the Rings, some people play SOTOR, or whatever else is still has active servers. What happens when Amazon gets into the game? What happens? Because all of these companies that are buying up other companies, whether it's Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, they're doing that to make money, and they're doing that. Are they doing that to compete with Facebook? Is that the play?
I think I think there's definitely positioning involved. I don't know how. So like Microsoft is actually in a really good position to go up against Facebook in this marketplace because they have their was it the Azure with the AWS equivalent for Microsoft, right? I think it's like Azure or something. But they have space, a storage space enough to sell to people. So they have the capacity of running larger servers that this would require. Same with Amazon because they have AWS. Because if Facebook Facebook better have a place that they're going to park their metaverse that's not on AWS, because then AWS is going to be charging rent from Facebook to have it on their servers, because then they could just be like, no, we don't want you to have the metaverse on ours, and they can kick them off the platform because there has to be a place to physically park it. And I think that we'll see. I think it's going to depend. I think we're at the point in time where we're either going to see a bunch of companies come out with various different type of metaverse worlds, or it's going to be just a flop and we're going to move on with our lives. And it's going to be like, that's cool, but maybe like 3D gaming is better. Like having tailored virtual experiences is better, like going to the movies versus going to a fake movie theater. It's like, I'd rather experience the content in virtual reality than go to a Walmart and shop, right? Yeah. It's like, I'll just go to the Walmart if I'm gonna go shopping. Like, I don't want to experience. As long as virtual reality is fun, what's fun in going to Walmart and shopping? I have like this thing like that, like I have to like unpack before I go to Walmart, where I'm like, it's like I gotta go spend whatever hours trying to avoid the rest of humanity. Like, why would I want to experience that virtually?
Here's the other thing too. It's interesting you should say that, going to an actual shop, because to counter, yes, it's convenient to buy things on Amazon, and this is why we think they're the big bad beast, is they're killing businesses. Could the meta or the virtual world take out the small shop owners, these or businesses in general? Because legitimately, all you're looking at when you look at, and I'm just going to keep using the meta, they got me, way to go Zuckerberg.
Sure.
Is it's all you need is a warehouse, and then I have a virtual store that looks all fancy and has all these cute, adorable, whatever the heck I want to make it flashy and salesy. But in reality, I have a brick and mortar warehouse out in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, that is just holding everything. And, I have like 3 disgruntled employees. And that's all they need. And one of them is a security guard.
I think a warehouse is the cheapest part of that equation in order to be a successful online retailer. I think the hurdle that you need to overcome is the last mile. So the mile that it takes to go from the local, whatever the location is closest to the consumer, usually like a post office, to the consumer itself, that last mile is the most expensive. And Amazon overcame it by having their own trucks, right?
Yeah, but I see where you're going with this, and I don't agree with you, because it's Target's already doing it, Walmart's already doing it, and they're using the USPS. Right. The United States Postal Service is the dirt cheapest of all the companies out there. 100%. There's arguably the cheapest, and they've already have contracts set up with them. What's to stop them from firing all their employees and just keeping warehouses and doing that meta?
So the USPS will have to work for, the USPS has to work for whoever, right? That's the law.
They work for themselves. Yeah.
Well, if I go to the USPS, by law, they have to deliver my package.
Yes,
like that's
theory,
the service. And so if I
have to try,
right,
but be nice.
They can't say go away.
I love USPS.
They can't say no, I'm not delivering your package. Right? They have to work for whoever hires them.
And yes and no, but yes.
Right. Yes and no and yes. I feel like if Facebook was metaverse, or Facebook bought metaverse, or I'm sorry, if Amazon was metaverse, or if Amazon bought metaverse, I would 100% agree that would be a danger, right? Because then you're connecting the dot. You're making a virtual store where people can experience the Amazon ecosystem in their store, and they already have the infrastructure that is able to get you the package the next day or within hours in cities.
In certain markets, though.
Yes,
in certain markets, but still, you're 2 days pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
For Meta to ramp up that amount of logistics, it would be, I mean, I think they could do it. It's going to cost them a pretty penny. And I think Meta would be happier in selling fake stuff that doesn't cost a dime to move.
Okay, so Facebook,
like skins and like decorations for if they make a world where you have to buy a house and you have to put curtains on it and stuff like that, just do that. Because then I agree with you there. Do anything.
Yeah. Facebook will do that. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying companies, let's look at companies like Walmart and Facebook, or Walmart and Target. All they have to do is, yes, I pay a fee to rent something on Meta. I have a store that you can go into, just like you said. And it's more glorious it's fun because you can pick up things and throw it around if you want to. But
yeah, I don't think it's going to take away that. I don't think that's going to take away from, I think they're going to cannibalize themselves if they do that. So I don't think it's going to take away from the shopper who's going to go to the mom and pop store, because I think in today's day and age, you make a conscious decision to buy local. You don't, if you're going to go to Walmart, it doesn't matter if you're going to go you're going to go regardless, right? You're going to Walmart, whether it's virtually or in real life. So they're going to get the sale from you, whether you make the 15-minute drive or you plug in your headset and you go to their metaverse equivalent and buy the product. You're just going to delay your purchase, right? Because you're going to have to wait for shipping to get to you. But it doesn't stop mom and pops from competing on that same scale, maybe warehousing a virtual mom and pop shop and being able to say like, hey, I'm your local person based on your IP address logging in. I can target just you. So when you go to your Walmart in the metaverse, you walk by your local businesses. Like, that's a possibility. And then that would perhaps take away from the bigger guys. It could.
More what I'm getting at is like, it's easier for Walmart and it's easier for Target and companies like this. And for them to go, I have a warehouse. They already have the warehouse. Sure. They already have an establishment.
100%.
It's easier for them to go, okay, you can buy everything like you are doing through Amazon, and you're going to cut employees and cut jobs just to have that warehouse. It's minimalizing effort while maximizing profits. To have a warehouse and just instead of going to a shop,
they're using their big box stores. They don't have a warehouse itself. They have
it's a possibility.
Also with employees.
It could see happen.
Right, but like Seth was saying, there's still going to be some people who like to physically go to the store.
Oh, sure. There's still people. We still like paper books.
Or that I'm on my way home from work and I need milk, grapes, and Oreos, and I can either put in an order on this today, but it's not going to be delivered until tomorrow between 2 and 3 o'clock. But if I need it on the way home from work, because my wife calls me and says, hey, by the way, on your way home from work, can you pick up milk, grapes, and Oreos? I have to physically go to the store. So I don't know that, but like you were saying, the big box stores have that infrastructure already in place.
And there's already stuff, but there's already stuff like Peapod. I don't know if that might be a New England thing. But I
just got that tonight.
Oh, there's companies out there that will deliver you your groceries. There's DoorDash.
Well, DoorDash and yes,
Uber Eats. There's all that. Well, there's people, they'll deliver you all your food. There's nothing stopping from that from being how Meta. And I'm not trying to go like anti-Meta, like troglodyte. No, but I'm just looking at it from another perspective. Like, holy cow, that could be crazy scary in a sense. Like you are a service or a delivery boy.
Right, but as we were talking about how Meta, the company, would need to seriously invest in the logistics of getting them to be able to deliver products to you. Target and Walmart, they may have the logistics side, but they don't have the technology side. At least, I mean, you've been to the Walmart's website. It's they're not making their own virtual world tomorrow. They would need to hire and staff and do that. they would more likely rent or lease from Metaverse a space, and then Metaverse would be able to build it out for them. But how is that that's not going to be as different as going to their website today? Like going to Walmart.com is just going to be as similar as, if anything, it's just going to take the same sale and just dilute it. So it's I would either go to the traditional HTTPS website, I would go to the virtual website in the metaverse, or I would go to the physical store. At some point in time, my dollar is going to Walmart and they're going to give me my product.
Yeah.
So did the pandemic accelerate this, or was it going that way anyway?
Well, I think the pandemic definitely allowed for some acceleration in I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. In terms of like, for example, more people just bought VR sets during the pandemic. So that's one thing that we see. Yeah. I know people too. I mean, like 3 or 4 of my friends bought VR sets during the pandemic. So the pandemic did naturally allow people to now have access to the technology that could potentially be targeting toward them. I think another thing the pandemic helped did is strengthen types of infrastructure of at least having work at home type of environments.
Yes.
The fact that we're doing this podcast on Zoom, I mean, Zoom, I think, did very well during the pandemic. But I think the pandemic did show people and kind of open the eyes of some businesses that a fully virtual experience in terms of work, I mean, the fact that you can just work at home is something that's viable. Whether or not it's going to last is obviously up for like, we have to see, time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I think that the metaverse can actually attack is, so to Zach's point, a lot of businesses sent their employees to work from home, and they still haven't brought them back in many cases. Some of them have permanently moved them to home. LinkedIn and I even believe Meta is all like, you permanently home, you can come in if you want, whatever. However, there is a big disconnect in the work tools that we have. A lot of businesses were not equipped to work from home.
Yes.
WebEx is very bad. People weren't familiar with how to use WebEx, or they were using Zoom. I feel like if you were if you were a vendor sending me a Zoom link, I was like, really? Like, we're using like an enterprise tool where like you're using this like free join my meeting tool. Like, get out. You're like, that's just. And I think that there is a gap professionally in regards to what people want, like management and executives want from a work from home experience. And what management and executives like doing is they like seeing people working. And in a virtual world, you could watch people work and you could see them signed in, where their eyes are, where they're tracking, what they're looking at. And there is that will we go to a world where we put on our headsets 8 hours a day and we look at Excel, but except we look at Excel in a virtual world?
It's insane.
Maybe.
Right.
It's scary.
Well, I work in that environment. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I sit in front of a computer. And at the beginning of COVID, they sent everybody home. I am the only idiot in my office who elected to return to the office because I despise the idea of working home. But that's how it's gone. And there's been no impact on productivity. Availability is up. There's no impact on quality. Worker satisfaction is up because people aren't having to drive 45 minutes in traffic every day. The only reason why the managers, you were just talking about this, the only reason why the managers want to bring people back in is control.
Right. Because they need something to manage. I work for a large pharmacy, and they sent us home, and we have not gone back in. I go in voluntarily because I live very close to my office, so I do, if I didn't want to, I wouldn't have to. And I could see the thing with my company though is that they own a lot of office spaces, And what would be convenient for them is if they didn't have to pay the very expensive leases for the 14 buildings that they lease in one little block, let alone nationwide, or the 14 buildings that they, I'm sure, cost some real estate dollars.
At $12,000 per square foot per year. Yes.
Oh, yes. And I'm sure they would be more than happy to just be like, we don't want that anymore.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, though, I worked for an insurance company probably about 10 years ago, and it was like, or 2010, whatever, and they were sending people home, and they were moving to a remote culture. So there was people that were hybrid, there were people that were full-time, there were people in the office, because they looked and they said, we don't want to pay all these leases. Like, we don't need people in the office if we can do the work. And I think so they kind of early adopted to it. So I'm sure that company is actually probably faring better than the company that I work for today, regards to being actually able to work from home effectively.
Because they were prepared.
Right, exactly, because they've been prepared. Where my company has been like struggling for the last 2 years to get up to be prepared. Right. And we did it quickly because we had to, but to this, they would still ideally want to bring us back in. And we were supposed to go back in January. They were going to invite us all back in. And then they said, oh, nope, just kidding. Omicron, all that. Just, you're not coming back in. Right. We'll tell you, come back in later. And later is yet to come up. So they would be the first. My company, if they could put me in a virtual suit to see how I'm working every day, they would be like, yep, we would love that.
So we have been going for a little bit. And as much as I enjoy talking to you gentlemen, I think we should wrap this up. So gentlemen, do you guys have any final thoughts on the metaverse, virtual reality, and the future? We didn't even get into really the future of gaming, but more of just talk about. So I'm glad I brought on
Free
the
Guy is
Classic
the
Gaming
future.
Brothers. No, truly, honestly, no. I love having you guys on. Truly. But this is what happens. We get focused on one subject, and honestly, metaverse it's a huge subject itself.
It's true. It is.
It's new and scary in all the fun ways.
But I mean, as kind of my last thought, I definitely think when it comes to something like the metaverse, from kind of just more of a joking perspective, I highly doubt we will see anything like the Oasis, just because the fact that the Oasis could last as long as it did without any ads is ridiculous. like that is so silly to believe that it's like a virtually free environment that has zero ads, and all these IPs like Battletoads and Mortal Kombat and like Minecraft. That's silly. That is silly.
The Iron Giant,
cool.
Yes.
The Iron Giant,
yes.
Dune, like it's cool. Not likely.
The metaverse will be built by advertisers.
Yes.
Right.
And loot boxes. Don't forget,
because the player is the product. The player is the product.
Yeah, and always has been, and always will be.
The sad fact is that there is no guy that exists that's similar to what's his name? The guy who invented the Oasis. The actual guy's name.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
There's no idealistic version of Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or even Elon Musk. There's no like guy who's able to create this that has like a pure like I want to do what's best for the players. Nobody exists like that.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that one of the billionaires out there that would be able to pull this off exists, that has this like, I'm gonna make a wonderful place for players to exist. No, they're all after their dollars. They're all after the mighty dollar.
It would be really cool. Very unlikely. That's just my parting thoughts though.
Well, the closest to that is Bill Gates in his retirement.
But even him,
it's not how he got there, but what he's done since he's left Microsoft. He's become this philanthropic machine, as opposed to this vanity project of building a spaceship to go into outer space for 25 seconds at a pop or whatever the hell it is.
I mean, look at the age difference between Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Like,
that's true.
Bill Gates is he's trying to earn points in the afterlife right now, I think, is what he's trying to do.
or atone for past sins.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. Father, forgive me. No. So, gentlemen, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, you can find us at any place where podcasts are found. You can find us anywhere podcasts can be found. iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, blah blah blah. The metaverse, we're there
already.
Of course, you can find us though at our website, classicgamingbrothers.com. That's where you can find us and contact us if you need to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. David, thank you so much for always being my wonderful co-host. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. As always, please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are listening to us on Apple, please remember to rate and review. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, so please like and follow us at DNA Pod, and on Twitter at NerdDNAPod, and on our webpage, nerddnapod.com. I'm your host, Steve Pugh, and I've been joined by the wonderful, the amazing, the conspiracy thinking, classic gaming brothers, Seth and Zach, and my retro gamer, David Perry. Thank you.
Television forever.